So today what I wanted to talk about was the table saw and how it can be set up differently. I posted a few videos on how I teach the table saw. I have a 3-part video on how I do it with my students. And I got a comment or mention of Jack Forsberg on it. It's a gentleman from the UK who's been doing woodworking a lot longer than me. I think he's got 55 years under his belt or something like that. He's very knowledgeable and he's been great helping me out and kind of eye-opening. I've lost some sleep over this actually, thinking about it. And in America, here in the US, a lot of our table saws, they're all, I mean, not a lot, I think just about every one is equipped with a long fence, like we have here, or the unifence on the Delta saw, or any of the table saws. And in the UK, typically what they have is a short fence, from what I understand, and from what I've seen from Jack. So I wanted to give this a shot. I don't know if it's the best thing for me to start teaching how to use a table saw with a short fence, but it has a lot of great reasons why you'd want a short fence. All right, I think a short fence would prevent, I mean, pretty much 100%, not quite probably, but kickbacks from happening. Because there's no chance for the board to pinch after the cut is done. You don't have to push that board past the blade like we do, because if we leave the board between the fence and the blade, there's a chance for it to kick back at you. So I always have to have my students make sure that they follow through all the way to the back of the blade. When you're using a short fence, which I've made one so that I could have one myself, and I just made this simple little fence that clamps to my original fence, and you only want to have the fence maybe an inch past the blade where the start of the gullets are on the blade, something in that area, so that when the cut is done, you're basically beyond the fence already, and you only have to push it that far. You don't have to have your hand go over the blade at all, which is another nice thing. And after it's past the fence, the short fence, there's no chance for it to bind. I still have my riving knife in because I think that the board has some internal stress that wants to pinch back together again. The riving knife will certainly hold the kerf open, so that'll prevent that. I do not have a crown guard, overhead guard that comes over, which I'm looking into actually adding that. I would like to see some comments and maybe some of us getting a discussion going on that and using a crown guard. Jack, if you could help me out with this. Whenever I use the crown guard, I've had them in the past on different saws. It always seemed to be, not always in the way, but whenever I'm making cuts that are narrow, you have to take the crown guard off. My crown guards are always kind of incorporated into the riving knife. They didn't have this nice overhead arm that you can lift out of the way, which probably would be nice. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. But let's make a cut so that you can see. The other thing that a lot of people are saying is, when I teach the table saw, I say that the tooth should only be, 1 tooth above the board. And it makes a lot of sense that that isn't the case. You should probably raise the blade up even higher than that. I've seen some different videos talking about the gullet being 3/4 to an inch above the board. The higher it goes, the more pressure, downward pressure we're gonna have with the teeth, and the less pressure you have to put on top of the board. When you have the blade low, like I've been teaching, you do have to put some pressure on top because the force is coming towards you more than down. So this makes a lot of sense as well. The higher, of course, we have the blade, the more nervous my students will be. So if maybe we get a conversation going about how people feel about that. Anytime I have students working here, I catch for them or another student catches for them. I don't have a catch table or an outfeed table on the saw. We catch for each other in here. No one uses the saw by themselves. And with a new student, I'm usually catching for them because I want to check their technique and critique them and help them get better as they go. And once I feel that they've got the technique down and they look like they have some confidence in using the saw, then they can start catching for each other. That's just kind of how I do it. But I want to make a cut with the short fence just so you can see what it looks like. I have my push stick here. My fence is locked down. I don't have to put a lot of pressure on the pot at all when the blade's up this high. You can see. I probably should have the short fence back even more. At this point, I still have to push it a little bit further. So that could be adjusted. And maybe, Jack, maybe you can give me some tips on that as well. Should I set this so that when I'm finishing the cut, just as I finish the cut, I'm beyond the fence, or should I have the fence go slightly beyond where the cut ends? Either way, the shorter I go, the better, because I don't have to get my hand even near the blade at all. All right, that's why I think the short fence is just really fantastic. And I don't know why we don't have them in the US. I know this isn't a tip of the day, but it's a conversation that I've been wanting to have on here, on TikTok, and I'd like to hear more of what people think about this type of setup, and let me know. Thanks.